Bobby Roast Beef, an episode of Jigs and Bigs. We are ready to rock. It is Black Friday today as we record this, and I hope you guys all had a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. We've got lots of stuff to talk about this week. I had myself one crazy week. Kicking off literally immediately after the recording of last week's show. Joe's got some stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about the choices in heating your home. Should you go with wood pellets or should you go with corn? I'm kind of pulling all this out of my ass, but no, in all seriousness, folks, I do have something great for you in this week's Gear of the Week. We're going to be talking about stuff specifically for the content creator or the angler that's just looking to capture their fishing footage for whatever reason. This is going to be a game changer as far as making things much, much easier for you. We'll go ahead and get this show started in just a bit. Go ahead and get yourself something delicious to enjoy, everybody. We'll see you right after this. Gentlemen, household pets, relatives that haven't yet or possibly have overstayed their welcome. Thank you for joining us for this week's Jigs and Bigs here, everybody. Bobby Roast Beef here. Just a quick reminder, we appreciate our listeners so much. You guys are absolutely the best. We're going to issue a holiday challenge starting out right now. If you are a true Jigs and Bigs fan, you love what we do, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go back in Spotify, or I want you to go Apple Podcasts, or whatever platform you look to. Go back and you remember your favorite episode. You know exactly what your favorite episode. I want you to just share your favorite episode with all your friends. Go ahead and share it with them. Spread the Jigs and Bigs love this holiday season. It's free to do, and it's hugely supporting your favorite fishing entertainment podcast. Also, it's the holiday season, officially. We can say that. We can kick it off, right, Joe? It's officially the holiday season?
It's officially. It's officially the holiday season.
There are Black Friday deals all over the place, and you're going to see more and more deals pop up through the season as things go until we get to like Christmas time. And even afterwards, sometimes you get some amazing deals. Do us a favor and especially help out and check out our partners. Right now, currently, as we record this show, Dark Horse Tackle is doing a Black Bass Friday sale, and I believe it will be over before this episode drops, which is just a shame for all of you guys because you can make out like a bandit. It's like a buy one, get one X amount % off. I think it's like 20% off. It's like a good deal. And as always, if you're, if you're whether you're buying gifts or you're just, taking advantage of the opportunity to save a little bit of ching, this is a good thing to do. And if you're listening to the show and someone's wondering, what could I get? If someone in your life is saying, what could I get you this year as a gift? We are going to be dropping, hopefully soon, some new merch, but we've got a bunch of great merch for Jigs and Bigs. So if you've wanted to pick up a hat or something, send somebody over to the jigsandbigs.com website there and send them a link to the shop. And they have a bunch of different products that are available. A lot of those are in stock, and because I've got multiple options to be able to buy them too. This is really good. So check all that stuff up. I just want to say, big thank you to all the listeners and stuff. You guys are amazing, and let you know about some of the great stuff we have going on. Joe, how you doing this morning, buddy?
Doing awesome.
Yeah.
Doing awesome. Feeling a little under the weather today. Woke up when you feel like you're like swallowing razor blades and you got that like post-nasal drip going on.
That's, it's coming.
I had been dodging it for so long. I mean, the kids have been sick so many times and I haven't gotten it. And so I knew it was going to catch up to me eventually.
My youngest has been fighting off this cold for like about 5 or 6 days. I'm going on a week now. Actually, I think tomorrow will be a week. And I picked her up over at a friend's house and she was like, she sounded all stuffy. I was like, how do you feel? She's like crap. And I was like, all right, do me a favor. I'm like, I'm going to try to keep from catching this because I'm like, I'm one of those people where I'm like, they invented sick time for a reason. Like when you're sick, you don't go to school. You don't,
right.
You know what I'm saying? And there was, what was it? Was it Tuesday? So my wife, I'd like to think we're pretty cool parents. Like my younger self, I want to think like if I looked up at me as a parent now, I'd say like, okay, I'm pretty cool. I can hang. my oldest was, she just didn't want to go to school like this week. She had a 2.5 day week. So a half day on Wednesday, and my wife was like, "Well, I'll tell you what, you can skip Tuesday or Wednesday." You know, and she opted to go into school on Tuesday. This is how good my kid is. She got high honors last quarter too. She goes in and she's like, I had a test to do. She goes to, they have a line of phones because they have their like these yonder pouches. They have to keep their phones in. So she can't contact me. So she got a pass to go out to one of the phones. She called me up. She's like, hey, I just took that test I was, super concerned about. Can you come pick me up? And I was like, hell yeah. And I was expecting to hear about it from my wife. But I'm like, again, high honors. She's earned this shit. And she opted to skip Wednesday, so she ended up actually having a 1.5 day week this week. Yeah. I was like, okay, not too bad. And then how was your Thanksgiving? I saw a couple of posts on Facebook from the fam.
Yeah, dude, it was super super low key. We just went to one of my sister's houses and dude, it was just it was just the boys were with their dad, so it was just me, Meg, Emma, my dad, and then my sister and her husband. Very small, very low key.
I love those holidays.
Yeah,
so
dude, it was awesome.
Yeah,
and she lives she lives on the other side of Lashaway from me. You know what I mean?
Okay,
so she's 5 minutes down the road, and
that's perfect.
It was dude, it was awesome. It was a good time. We I didn't even really drink much. Like it was good. But I kind of felt myself kind of getting a little sick yesterday, so I kept it kind of cool. Didn't eat a ton, but I actually probably ate more when I got home, the leftovers, than I did anything. But
what was the standout dish?
Oh man,
like what was the thing people were just like, holy shit, this is great?
Dude, honest, the way she did the turkey, I don't even know.
Oh,
but
really?
I was like, the turkey was just like so, just moist, and I'm a big turkey. I love turkey. And then the green bean casserole was really good. She did a really good job with that as well.
I freaking love green bean casserole.
Yeah,
my wife and I both, but there's like this legion of people that hate it.
Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of it, but this one was good.
Yeah,
I think. It's not even that I never gave it a chance. I'm that type that never, but I'll be like, oh, green bean casserole, but never gave it an honest chance. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
But no, man, it was good. Day before that, day before Thanksgiving, we talked about the school thing. So, I've said Emma goes to a private school that's in Sturbridge. It's about, it's a good 35 minutes from my house. And so for a kindergartner, we have to have her at the bus stop at 7, which is like 10 minutes down the road from my house, 10 minutes down the road. And she had a half day on Wednesday. So which means that I got to have her there at 7, then be back at the bus stop for like noon.
Yep.
So I go in at 6 a.m. to wake Emma up, and I'm just like, time for school. And she's like, you could tell she rolls over. I go, you want to stay home? And she's like, best, yes. She's like, I was like, because I had to go to the registry. So I was like, fuck. I was like, that's gonna fuck on me if I have to like get her to the bus stop and then go pick her up. So I let her stay home. She came to the registry with me, and I told her if she deals with the registry with me, I'll bring her to the craft store. So she's like a huge into art, dude. Like this kid colors, paints like all day long. So I was like, I'll get you some awesome, new. I was like, we'll go to Michael's. I'll get you some new like markers and stuff. So yeah, it was. And then you want me to just go through the rest of my week while I'm here?
Yeah, absolutely.
It was super uneventful, nothing fishy. I'm trying to plan, dude. I'm trying to plan of like, obviously, like. I don't do a ton of ice fishing, and because, number one, we haven't gotten ice for shit the last couple of years.
Yeah, we really haven't. It's been shitty.
And it's just like I'll go do it with the kids, but it's not like I'm not like a diehard ice fisherman by any means. But I'm trying to come up with a plan because, Jeremiah has really been bitten by the bug, and he wants to become a content creator for fishing.
Really?
He does. So for Christmas, he's going to get some he doesn't listen to the show, so we're gonna get him a nice GoPro and stuff like that, and some accessories and stuff. But
this gear of the week this week will be a good thing for him.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna have to look at that. But I'm so for like the content in the winter, obviously I'll bring him out ice fish if we get the ice. That means, but I think I'm gonna walk him up and down the Swift a few times, find some rivers to kind of walk them up and down. Like,
I love that in the winter,
some kind of like wilderness fishing, finding some shit.
Yeah.
And, so just trying to plan that out. The boat's going in probably this weekend. I got to finish unpacking that thing, but so the boat's going to be, the Icon's going to be away for the remainder of the winter, and that's pretty much it, man.
Well, I had a pretty crazy ass week. I'm gonna start. So my Thanksgiving was pretty badass. Now, my dad makes, like, I will say the post-pandemic holidays, those smaller gatherings, they're totally my favorite. So, like, I'm all in on this. We've been doing this thing, especially since my folks have moved into my sister's place. It's actually gotten really convenient, and because now it's just my kids, just my family. We just go over there, and everything's done. So my dad generally like cooks everything, and he's one of these guys. He's like, no, I'm good. You guys relax. I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to do this. Dude, the turkey was awesome. And he's been really big the last handful of years on brining the turkey. And I can't say enough good about that as far as like imparting moisture and flavor into whatever it is you're doing. Like brining meats is just unbelievable. And it was out of this world, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and put myself on the first place spot as far as the standout item. I brought a snackle box. My mom had asked me to, and the jig heads can see this, but I'm going to go through the breakdown right here. My mom had asked me, she's like, can you just bring over, like, it's not much, so we don't need like a huge appetizer course or anything like that. And both of my parents, they're on Weight Watchers, and my dad I'm pretty sure my dad already hit his goal. And he's like, I'm so sick of eating fucking chicken breast and eggs, because they're like 0 points. And I'm like, I get it, dude. I get it. I should be smarter than that. So I'm like, I'm going to bring something that's really like, this is it. We'll kind of leave it out. And I'll tell you what, it was perfect for the number of people that we had. So we had, my wife she goes, what are you going to do? Are you won't bring like a cutting board or something like that? And that was my initial plan. And I feel like my wife bought this from Temu. So what this is for the listeners that are listening to the show and not jig heads that can see it, that are in the chat right now, this is like a clear, like acrylic box that it actually has a complete, it's got it's got 6 hinges around the side, clips that hold it down. And it actually has like a gasket around there, like a waterproof ring. So if, for all intents and purposes, this could be like a big swim bait box, but it has inserts, these little like 1 cup size inserts that go in. There's 8 of them in total. So we'll start at the bottom. The bottom 2 match. We have, of course, some crackers. You need some crackers. And I was in the cracker aisle and I was looking at like these fancy, like hearth baked such and such or whatever. And I'm like, I'm just going to get the crackers that taste good. Let's get the Ritz, man, because butter is king, especially at Thanksgiving. So we just went with some Ritz, and I got 2 different cheeses. I got a Gouda and I got a sharp cheddar, both big hits with everybody in the house. I got some cured meats in the mix. What was this? Was this a salami? Yeah, it was. I forget the brand though. Some mixed nuts, deluxe mixed nuts. I'm not putting peanuts in the nuts mix. Peanuts are great. I love them, but I will buy them. I don't need them taking up room in my deluxe mixed nuts. You know what I'm saying? And then up the top, these are I think what stood out. We have these sweet cheese stuffed peppers, the pickled peppers. They're absolutely dynamite. And then some small pickles. I don't even know if these qualify as gherkins because they were sizable. They were for that size of a pickle. But I think the company is Majestic Picklery. I think that's the name of it. And I figured I was like, I'm going to get out of the mix and try something different. We're not sweet pickle people. mostly. We're more about like the hot garlic and the dill. I'm the hot garlic and like dills. These were out of this world. So good, in fact, that my daughter was like, let's save the jar with that juice. I'm going to add some vegetables to it to pickle them, like a quick pickle. I was like, it's your world. Have fun. So I think that this was the standout item, but you know, it is what it is. I could be mistaken. You know, maybe there was something else that stood out. As far as the rest of my week goes, so let's back all the way up to the recording of last week's show. And last week's show was unbelievable. Like, you and I recorded Saturday morning, and then I didn't record the interview segment with Brandon until Monday night. And I'll tell you, dudes, having Monday off was amazing. It was the best thing I've done in a long time. My wallet felt it a little bit, but it was fucking worth it. I got so much stuff done that day. So I was, the same thing as today. Like, we're going to finish recording the show. I'm going to hitch the boat up and then head out and then send it. I went out with Paul to a spot that we've talked about on the show at length. It's called, we like to call it Congamon Junior. Now, for those in the Western Mass area, like Lake Congamon is, I don't know what it is about Lake Congamon. Like, it's hammered. There's a ton of pressure there, right? From tournament pressure and recreational pressure. And it's one of those lakes that rides the Connecticut border. So Connecticut anglers and Mass anglers, either license, will work in that body of water. So it gets hammered. Congamon Junior is a little bit different. It's just got its own different flavor of bullshittery. So I had gone out, and my big goal last week was we had talked about the Dark Horse tackle box for November, and in there were a couple of really sweet items. One of them that stood out was that baby umbrella rig from Bass Dope. It's a three arm umbrella rig, and Bass Dope also has their jig heads in the box. So I rigged this sucker up, of course, legal for Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, you can only have two jig heads, two hooks. But Dark Horse Tackle, being so amazing, included some screw locks, so I was able to pop those suckers on. We're good to go. So I had gone out. I was like, I just want to know what this is like, and dude, I will tell you. So I caught 4 fish on this rig. It's the only thing that I was throwing that day. I had gone out to one spot that produces very well to me, and I was out there with Paul. Everything's cool. We're having a good time. The wind was kicking, like 20, 22 mile an hour gusts. Like, it was nuts. When it would gust bad, it was bad. So I'm like, all right, maybe they're going to be chasing. This could be a really good thing. They were chasing, dude. So I cast up real shallow, and we're kind of off this little ledge in some deeper water, and I'm just casting it up and then bringing it back over this ledge, and it gets hammered. Like I'm reeling it in. I have a nice tight line, immediate slack left right in there. I could actually use a little faster reel with this, because I'm cranking to catch up. I catch up. I set the hook, and I'm like, this is something big over here. This is crazy. And it came in kind of weird. It didn't really fight. I had caught the biggest pickerel I had ever caught at this body of water. Came in at over 20 inches. Absolute and I'm like, where were you in the scavenger hunt?
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, there's so many pickerels. So for those that don't know, Congamon Junior has a reputation for 2 different fish. Little slime darts in that like 12 to 14 inch window that'll just kill everything. Or these dink bass in that 12-inch size, and they're all just cloned out everywhere. Like, it's so ridiculous. And unfortunately, like, if you're going to try to cull some of those out, you just got to kill them. And that's it. Because you can't eat them. They are toxic in that body of water. So it's like, it's a little frustrating, and it has a reputation for not having big fish. The next fish I caught on this rig, and this was probably less than 10 minutes, same kind of situation on that dividing line where there's a ledge and there's deeper water and then more shallow water. On this side, though, there were some weeds as well. And I throw into this one area, and this was real shallow. Same thing. It got fucking hammered. Now, this fish choked it. Like, absolutely just wanted this bait, this jig head. And I bring this in. It was one of those dink bass in that 12 to 14 inch window. I'm like, okay, release this fish. Everything's cool. This is where it got weird. So the wind had picked up substantially, and we're, casting in this one area. I'm not getting bit. Paul isn't getting bit. He's throwing, I think at this point, he was throwing like a big swim bait, like a 5-inch, not like a big swim bait specific rod or anything like that, but like a 5-inch soft plastic swim bait. And he's throwing this around. He's not getting bit at all. So I said, let's just go along this line of docks, because the way that the wind was kind of coming, I go, we'll have a little bit of the bank blocking those houses, blocking some of that. So we go over and we start fishing in this area, and we're not getting anything. We're not getting anything. We get down to this one little corner where we kind of make a switch, and there's this old, like, died down bed of pads. And I was like, that looks fishy as hell. And I picked up that Martin's XT finesse jig. And I started throwing into a laydown over there, not getting anything. And I'm like, okay, all right. I said, well, I'm going to kind of run this as fast as I can over the top of these pads. Dude, that A-rig got rocked. I get this fish up to the boat, and I was like, holy shit, is this big? What is it? Dude, it was a 19-inch rainbow trout. Hammered that A-rig. That rainbow did not make it. Hammered it so hard, this jig head was down its throat and out through like the gill plate. Like absolutely gilled itself. You know what I mean?
That's wild.
Yeah,
That's wild.
It was nuts. So that rainbow's in my freezer. So I'm like, and again, just to clarify, rainbow trout, stocked fish. I'm taking that one out. Different animal. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. So I'm like, I can't believe it. And I was floored. I'm like, a trout hammer, because these were 3.3-inch swim baits on here. And I'm like, that's a little bit larger than I've caught trout on. But I mean, it was a sizable rainbow. So we start going a little further, along this one area, and like there's this little cove where it's like, again, like it would normally be crazy weeds, but this time of year we can get in there, and there's some big rocks too. So those big rocks will hold a little bit of heat, and we start making our way around. We interrupted what I can only assume was like a goose orgy. I mean, there's that. It was pretty fucking gross, to be honest. We're like, what the fuck is happening? So we start trying to get away from it. They all start flying by. A goose shit on my reaction tackle backpack, dude, in the parking lot.
Really?
Yes, I had gotten out of the truck and I was loading my rods up against the side of the boat, and I'm like, okay, so this is cool. And these geese fly by, and as I go under the truck, Paul saw it, and I saw the geese fly by. He's like, dude, I think a goose just shit in your boat. And I was like, what the fuck? The backside of my backpack is just like disgusting. I'm like, you pieces of shit. And now, like, this is the time of year where my backpack isn't staying in the boat, because if I go to, like, the chew, I'm going to need to pick some stuff out of that to create, some shit to work with. So I digress. We come around into this cove over there. We get chased out by these fucking geese. And we round this. I initially, it looks kind of like an island, but I don't think it's an island. I think it's just like this section of bank that kind of juts out, but it's wide. Yeah, it's weird. So we come around this one area, and I see this other laydown that just looks sexy, and I'm throwing this umbrella rig up in there, and I'm just dragging it back, covering as much water as possible. And I was like, this is a big kind of flat. It doesn't get really deep right here. Let me just throw out toward the center of the lake, and we'll see what happens. And Paul was fishing that side. I throw, and I'm like maybe 5 or 6 cranks in, and line goes slack immediately. I'm like, zip, 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 jacket. I'm like, oh shit. I was like, dude, I need the net. I need the net for this. And Paul's like, okay, all right, cool. So he comes over and he hands me the net. I grab the net. I scoop this fish up. Dude, it was a 5-pound, 20-inch largemouth. Biggest largemouth I have ever caught out of that body of water, ever. And it was so satisfying, because it has that reputation of just being just a dink pond, It really does. And I mean, obviously, Sean and myself both agree. And there's other anglers out there that we've had conversations with. Josh Scaife is another one. Any of these little bodies of water can house a giant, And most likely there is 1 or even maybe 2 or even maybe 3 in these ponds. Like, what about that 7-pounder I caught out of that pond in East Hampton? Like, they are in there. They get that size for a reason. I was telling a buddy of mine, and he's big into cycling and stuff, and like we've had conversations about like overlanding rigs and things, because he likes to go and like do his activity, biking and cycling, trail riding, and stay for a few days. And so, you know, we kind of have this in common. We go back a long time, and we're talking, and he sees the picture, and it is the greatest picture. Like, it is the greatest picture. He goes, dude, he's like, that's huge. He goes, you caught that around here? And I'm like, yeah. You know what's funny about this guy? He's vegan, and he loves my fishing stories. I don't know if that's like the religious preacher, like, you know, going to the, you know, the skin booth or whatever. And, you know, I don't know, but I feel like there's some kind of symbiotism, you know, there. But he does. He loves my fishing stories. And he was like, that was around here. And I was like, oh, yeah, dude. In a body of water with the shittiest reputation. And he's like, no fucking shit. That's crazy. And yeah, that was an absolute tank of a fish. Immediately, I texted Josh and Zach, and I sent over pictures. And I was like, you guys are never going to believe this. I'm like on that baby umbrella rig. And I got a question last night. It was actually from Javi, from our jighead friend, Javi Silva. He had asked me about the combo that I was throwing that rig on. And, you know, even if you are, like, if I were in Connecticut where I can use all 3 jig heads, even if I were throwing it with all 3, that's only 3/8 ounce, you know, plus the wire. The wire's not crazy heavy. So let's give it an ounce. Let's give it an 1.25 ounces with the plastics. You know what I mean? It's not that big of a rig. So what's funny is, you know, Javi had mentioned that Eli, one of the pro staff members for Dark Horse Tackle, that Eli had put out a video, and he's throwing his on like a 7.3 heavy fast, and I was throwing mine on my moving bait rod that I use for bladed jigs and stuff like that, which is a 7.4 medium heavy moderate fast, and like I just felt like it was. You know, it depends a lot, too, on the fisherman, like how you set the hook. That's got to come into play, too. But if you want to dabble, like this is like genuine. Like if you've ever thought, like, I kind of want to dabble with the A-rig, with the umbrella rig. I want to fuck around and find out a little bit. The Bass Dope one over at Dark Horse Tackle is that is the one to start with, because you don't need special equipment for it. You know, you can throw this on the same thing you would throw like a 1/2 ounce or a 3/4 ounce bladed jig or a rattle trap or something like that. You can throw this on that, and it was pretty fucking badass. I was stoked when I caught that fish. So that was really, really good. I had a doubleheader on Sunday, and I didn't even really get out and fish on Sunday much. I attempted one spot, and then I had a couple of like domestic duties to handle around the house. So I was like, you know what? It's freaking blowing like a bitch. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call it. And that's what happened. You know, I just, you know, decided to call it, come in, finish my game. Monday was a crazy day for me. I got a lot of stuff done on Monday. Obviously, had that segment with Dust Off. That was amazing. I don't know if you heard the show, Joe, but we had a great conversation, talked about Instagram, some of the shit that's been changing there. And then, like, you know, sort of like what's interesting about Jigs and Bigs and Dust Off Fishing is that we both have been in that Instagram corner for years now. Yeah. You know, and it's, I don't know, you know, we have that conversation that we don't think it's paying off anymore. And it's, you know, you can't leave a social media platform where you have a sizable amount. Obviously, he has he's like double the followers at least that we've got. Like, he's got more of an audience there, and people fucking love him. Like, no bullshit. If I share the artwork of an episode here, and, you know, I usually try to, you know, bring that guest on as a collaborator so that their audience is aware of the show immediately without them having to even do anything. Like, the comments of people just like, oh, Dust Off is great. That was a great segment, blah, blah. You know, I mean, unbelievable. Like, people love that guy. And I think there is a lot more out there. I'm kind of glad he mentioned in that interview that maybe YouTube might be the move, because I think that there's something there, you know, so he might be looking for an editor, guys. Just saying.
So going back to your bass on the A-rig there, yeah. I will even like when you sent me the picture and knowing where you were fishing,
You were floored.
I was shocked, dude, because I've been there maybe once
Yeah.
ever, which is crazy because it's like a minute and a half from my work. But I was floored, just like you said. I couldn't believe that place produced, that fish. And
Yep.
like you said, it's, it's every body of water has that. Most of them have at least one donk in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And you just been last couple of years, you just been finding them in those bodies of water, Bobby.
You know what it is? It's 2024. I remember doing I think it was the New Year's Eve 23. And I was like, 23 was fun. I had a blast getting out there, and I caught some decent fish in that like 18, 19 inch window or something. Like I don't think there were any PBs set in 23. But something about 24 has just been unbelievable. This has been one of the best years of fishing I've had in my life.
Yeah.
Yep. Fucking, it's insane. So, one of the things that I got done on Monday that was really important was I put together some of the last minute details for Something Fishy Trivia. And I can officially say Something Fishy Trivia was recorded on Tuesday with Becca Yassine and Ryan Rigged. I reached out to Becca and I was like, listen, I know she's got a super fun, and I know that deep down there's a little part of Becca that is painfully competitive. And knowing this, I was like, who would you like to kind of throw the gauntlet out to and like call them out to go head to head on this Something Fishy trivia game? And she called out Ryan Rigg. She's like, oh yeah, she's like, this would be amazing. And I'll tell you, their two personalities are unbelievable. They really kind of like bicker like their brother and sister. It's so funny. And it was an intense game. It was. Becca ended round one with a sizable lead, but after the first bonus, Ryan made it a tie going into the second round, which was insane. So they started that second round tied up, and it was like anybody's game because in that second round, you can lose points for an incorrect answer. So there was some fuckery that went on. It all came down to the final question. You guys will have to check it out. It's on YouTube. It's on the Jigs and Bigs YouTube channel. You can check it out there. The whole show, it was so nice to put this together. Now, there are some things that I noticed, and I did this sort of like as a demo to check it out. So you're going to see stuff that's like, like certain sound effects didn't come through, and I realized that I need to record the audio locally as a backup so that way I can just sync it up and have it all go in, because like I had a bunch of applause in there, and I really there were a couple of good one-liners too that I might not necessarily stick out right away because I threw a rim shot in where like Ryan would say something hilarious. And I'll tell you what, we got to have Ryan on the show soon. He said something when we were kind of going over the instructions and everything, and I was like, you're all right, bud. You're my kind of angler. And so we're going to have him on. We're going to chat. Ryan's a good dude. He makes some amazing content. So go and check him out. Ryan Rigged. He's on Instagram. He's on TikTok. This dude is everywhere. And just a great, genuine guy. And we had a blast. It was so much fun, man. And the feedback has been really good. You know who reached out to me and said they really liked it, like as just to watch it as a game show?
Who dat?
Brody.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was like minutes after it dropped. He was like, man, I just watched it. He goes, you got to do another one of those. So
that's awesome.
I've already talked with Aggressively Average Anglers, and I would love to have Jeff versus Paul. And then they could even like team up with like a follower or, somebody who's been, part of their squad for a while. And we can do like team averages. Like there's so many options and so much that we can do. But yeah, go ahead, check it out. It's over on YouTube, guys. What's nice is that now I can share this with some of these sponsors that were like, we don't really kind of understand what it is that you're going for. Now I can say, like, just watch this. The production value is only going to increase. My internet proved to not really be terrible to do this. I was amazed. So it was really good. And, I appreciate all the good feedback from everybody. There's something else that came out this week involving Bobby Roast Beef, and that's the new episode of The Whole Angler over on the Catch Podcast. So I sat down late at night forgetting that I had an interview with Dave Urquhart, and I popped an edible and was like, oh shit, that's right, I've got a Zoom meeting. So we jumped on and we recorded the show, and we had a great conversation. Now, I'm going to tell you guys straight up. There's no like deep, dark secrets of Bobby roast beef or anything in here. This was just a fun conversation between two dudes that we talked a little bit about like my story and like the shit I've done in life. But it's not the tearjerker you're expecting from, any of the other ones, hint, hint. Or that's what I like about the whole Angler, though. It's sort of like, it's kind of like biography. You know what I mean? Like A&E's biography for anglers, for our kind of people. And I think that's fucking cool. You know what I mean? Every episode's going to be a little bit different. Like, I love the one that he did with Andy. I thought that was fantastic.
Yep.
And then, of course, the Zach and Josh ones are great, too. So, yeah, good shit, man. And then that brings us to Thanksgiving and everything. And, we're full circle. So that was my week. It was pretty cool. And I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a teaser here. I had and then I want to say hi to the jig heads, but I had a company when I was looking for sponsors for something fishy trivia. I'm hitting up like all kinds of brands and companies, shit that we can think of. Like I literally hit up like toilet paper companies because I'm like, anybody who watches this show, hopefully they wipe their ass, and they could use toilet paper. Take the hint. Use the toilet paper. But one of those companies I reached out to was a company called Everyday Cannabis Company. And what they kind of caught my eye because their slogan is like EDC. You can kind of see it on here. And this that they sent me a couple of things, is their 510 cartridge battery. It's called the Ranger. It's all aluminum, and it's a C-cell battery, which C-cell is an amazing company. These batteries, they hold their charge, and they're reliable. But what's really cool is this is a 510 cartridge, but you don't have to screw it in. They give you these little mounts, adapters that you can pop in and crank it down. And it's a magnet adapter, so it lines up perfectly every single time. It works great. I think this is awesome. They also sent me a couple of other items. I'm actually going to do a little YouTube video and show some of these off. Pretty freaking slick, man. Let's go ahead and say hi to some jig heads. We got jig heads all over the place here. We got, let's see, starting up early. Tim Behan jumped in, said good morning. Cheryl Bentley's with us. Tim Behan says there's an MAKB tournament, Massachusetts Kayak Bassin Tournament on Sunday. There is. Man, that's okay. Javi Silva's in the house, says good morning, Kings. John Hagan says just popping in to say hi. Got to get back to work. That's no good on Black Friday. That's the worst because you still have all of that food that you're carrying around, and you're getting paid big to take a giant dump at work. It's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. Todd says morning y'all, and then he says I was looking at that battery. I recommend it. I gave it a charge once I got it just to make sure it was topped off, and it's pretty awesome. Sunday is cold. Like today's going to be cold. Sunday's going to be worse. That's rough. Are you fishing, Tim? Are you going to get out there, or are you of sane mind when it comes to all that? We'll find out. Let's go ahead and shift gears. There's one thing this week. A lot of people have been talking Black Friday everything, and Joe had even said this was a tough week for headlines, but we got one for you guys.
It's a good one.
I love that.
It's gonna be a controversial headline. You ready for this one?
I love that.
All right, let me get my cursor over here on the right screen. All right, so this diehard bass angler wants you to kill more largemouth bass, Bobby. And that's for better fishing in the future. Will our love of largemouth bass be the downfall of trophy bass fishing in America? Are your feelings hurt? That was the opening line of the most accompanying the post accompanying the Instagram reel, a sad music track like one you might hear in an apocalyptic drama during the scene where it comes clear that all hope is lost. This sets the tone as an oven door screeches open. Oliver Nye's hand then reaches inside and slowly extracts a baking sheet holding the charred remains of a fat 4-pound largemouth. As if the whole roasted bass wasn't triggering enough, Nye proceeds to peel off its crispy skin and free chunks of flesh from its bones. and then feeds them to his dogs. At face value, the post looks like nothing more than selfish, barbaric pot stirring for the sake of social media attention.
Yeah.
But if you took the time to read Nye's entire caption, you'd see that wasn't the case. It was, in my mind, and this is coming from the editor of this, not mine. It was, in my mind, one of the bravest and most brilliant pieces of content a big-time influencer in the bass world ever produced.
Yeah.
How do you define a trophy bass? How you define a trophy bass likely does not match Nye's description. He built his name and brand, Big Bass Dreams, which we've all heard of, around the pursuit of largemouths weighing north of 10 pounds. The California-based angler has a multitude of teen-class fish to his credit, including a 17-pound, 6-ounce personal best. Since the 2010s, Nye's has been using various platforms to educate legions of hopefuls seeking that kind of glory, but his latest lesson is a lot less hopeful. In his opinion, it's no longer worth putting in the effort for truly giant, jaw-dropping bass because so few of them exist anymore. Why? Because we have become so obsessed with the protection of largemouths in this country that many of us refuse to keep them, and we often criticize those who don't practice catch and release. But in some cases, this mindset is killing nature's ability to maintain balanced fisheries. Nye is not alone in his opinion. Biologists and other experts have been screaming selective harvest for years, but nobody wants to listen. Will you? If killing a limit of bass every time you're on the lake would create a better fishery for the kids, for your kids or their kids, could you bring yourself to do it? Or will you keep tossing those 2-pounders back so they become 5-pounders, quote unquote? Which, spoiler alert, they probably won't. And then, first big largemouth I ever caught, I'd say right around 5 pounds, fell in the late 1980s to a wad of night crawlers soaking on the bottom of a local lake. Without thought or hesitation, my Italian grandfather rammed the metal spike of his nylon stringer through its gills and unceremoniously slid it down to rest atop the 3-channel catfish, gasping for oxygen on the other end. This wasn't weird to me. But by the time I was a teenager, guys like my grandfather, the proverbial members of the bucket brigade, were villains at any body of water where bass were the main attraction, as it became harder and harder to catch quality fish in places that would routinely kick out heavies when I was younger. Blaming an uptick in meat fishermen was the easiest way to explain your failure. Never would I have considered that my valiant catch and release policy on largemouths had anything to do with local ponds and lakes becoming shells of their former selves. And even though I paid no attention to professional bass fishing at the time, I had been influenced by it nonetheless.
Yep.
Probably just like you. And then it basically, the article keeps kind of going like, you know, what are your thoughts, feelings of this? And yeah. What's your take, Bobby?
So I am a huge Selective harvest fan. I really am. Like, I think that if we could normalize the idea of catching like a specific range and saying like, oh, if you catch, you know, a 12-inch bass, it's your responsibility to keep 2 of those every time you go out and not necessarily eat them. Like, I love you also know that like I'm fully aware of the environment that we live in and the fact that like eating those fish that have spent their entire life in that environment is not the healthiest lifestyle. And I feel like I've had enough personal experience with people who are in the white bucket brigade to know that like there's a problem. You know what I mean? So that's why like I try to only take stocked fish. But if we could make it like a regular thing where you're like, yeah, I'm going to take this fish and I'm going to use it for either fertilizer or like what Nye did and feed it to his dogs. You know what I'm saying? I mean, also at the same time, do you want to give your dogs dick cancer? I mean, you got to take that into consideration too. So, but I'm a big fan of that. Personally, for me, I don't think a 4-pounder would be one that I would necessarily take out. I think that's a little bit excessive. The thing that I look at is, and I don't know that there's scientific backing behind this, but there's a little bit of logic that those fish that grow to a certain amount or a certain size or of a particular size, there's 2 things at play. One of those is the fact that they are they were good enough to, or they were keen enough to stay alive long enough to become a fish of that size. The other thing is that they also have the genetic backing to be able to do so. So by keeping those genetics in that pond, I kind of look at it like that. But not every fish, carries those genetics. In fact, like a large number of fish never make it to that first year. The ones that are born, they like a lot of them never make it to that first year. It's a tough. I am a big fan of selective harvest in that sense. Take them out like when you need to. In fact, when I was out Saturday and I caught that big, there was a dude in the parking lot he was like, "Oh, how'd you do?" And I actually asked him, I was like, "How'd you do?" He's like, "Oh, they're not biting today." I was like, "Oh, that's too bad, man." I was like, I caught 4 and I caught 3 good ones. And I showed him the pictures and he was like, "Oh, no shit." He's like, "You didn't keep them?" I was like, "Oh, I got the trout in the live well still." Like, that's it. But I'm like, yeah, that's the only thing I'm eating out of here. I'm like, you shouldn't be eating shit out of here either.
Yeah.
But like, if we can normalize the fact that, or come up with a creative way to say, here are different ways that you could use these fish that are these cookie cutter clones that are in these bodies of water to kind of help the overall population. I think, the idea of being responsible in the outdoors to benefit like the overall bass population, so they're not stuck at a particular size and overcrowded, is not a bad thing.
Right.
Yeah,
it's I guess where my nervousness would come from selective harvest is good. It can be good. The problem is us as anglers as a group, like suck in the aspect of if we all do it, it's like in my mind, if we all do that, then we're totally depleting. You know what I mean? So it's like,
and I think there's got to be some management too. Like, I don't think it's a switch that you could say like, okay, so we're going to do such and such, but maybe if you put out, and like, again, this is difficult, but that's what your local agency that manages your wildlife, and this is what they're there for. If they could enforce like a window where they're like, every single species of whatever for the next 7 days, if it measures between this length and this length, has to be pulled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then you've got a little bit more control, because there's going to be some people who aren't going to do it. You know what I mean? Because for whatever reason. And then there are people who are going to do it anyway because that's what they do, But I think that you could probably put a dent in it where you're like, because it's a real estate game with a body of water. For every acre, I think I heard this, I think it was Shannon Gorman said this a long time ago on Tackle Talk. For every body of water, for every acre in a pond, right? Typically, you can only support 100 pounds of life. And that's the principle that I keep going back to. So it's like you have a bunch of life in this pond, and that includes, you got to count the weight of all the minnows, all the bait, all the predators. And so if you have, let's say you have a 1 acre pond and you have a 10-pound bass that managed to live there, 10% of the life is that bass. You know what I'm saying? And that's where like you're gonna see it ramp up. So I'm like, I try to keep it in thought like that. It is a numbers game. And I mean, let's be honest, dude, these bass, when they spawn, introduce millions of fucking fish.
100%.
Yeah. So I don't know that it would have the worst. I mean, if you're doing it all the time, obviously, but I think even then you're going to have some people who don't do it. And then there's the white bucket brigade. I'm so glad he used that phrasing. The white bucket brigade. I'm like, man, and it's true. Like, I feel like there are, and there's extremists on either side. Like those folks that show up to a body of water, they keep every single fish they catch. They don't care,
Yeah, the white bucket brigade isn't out there selective harvesting.
No, they're not. They're just
taking what the fuck ever hits the hook. You know what I mean? And those are the guys that are gonna deplete the fishery.
Yep.
It's if you want selective harvesting, and kind of what Nye does here is, you have to have seasoned, educated anglers. Those are the type of people you're going to have to rely on to like adequately do this. Not these fucking ding dongs that the white bucket brigade that are out there just fucking piling every fish, breaking all kinds of laws, and just doing what they do. That's what's going to deplete the fishery.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. You're right. The other end of that is like the newbie bass angler that, not through their own naivete, sort of puts the largemouth bass on this pedestal as if it is like royalty. You know, Joe, I actually had a listener, because we had this conversation like in the early days of Jigs and Bigs. And I had a listener say at one time that they felt that the largemouth bass should be protected, or is essentially carries the same sentiment as the bald eagle. To which I was like, well, that's interesting, because all the birds of prey are federally protected. Right. You know, I'm like, bass aren't. You know what I mean? Right. And I was like, so right there, that tells you something. Like there's something about that you need to consider. And I'm like, we can't, like, I like the way that Alex Rudd talks about giving fish these anamorphic sort of personalities. You know what I mean? They're just creatures. You know what I mean? Like they're not people. So it's a different sort of animal. A lot of people, like, they build this in, like this largemouth is going, like, oh, you caught this largemouth, and if you harvest it, you're taking it from its family. Or like, you know what I mean? Like, this largemouth isn't going to go to, you know, back to its place of employment tomorrow. It's like, no, these aren't people. They don't live the lives that we live. You know what I mean? They're born to eat and reproduce. The same could be said about humans, but we fuck more shit up anyway. You know what I'm saying? But like literally, like that's what they do. They eat, they reproduce, and that's it. Dan, I don't know. I think that there's extremes. Like you can't keep everything that you catch. That's just gross irresponsibility.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you release everything you catch too, you have to understand that there is some irresponsibility in that as well. You know? So I think we have to look at it like this. For every single, you know, angler out there that's like, I'm releasing every single fish that I catch because that's how it is. Maybe we don't hate on the white bucket brigade so much because they sort of cancel each other out. Maybe, hopefully. We got a comment here from Tim Behan. This is good. He goes, I think bass are selective harvested by accident when a bass inhales a hook and dies that way. You know, that comes into play. I've heard also, like, I'll give you a good example, like in Massachusetts, sturgeon. They tell you that if you can't unhook a sturgeon within a certain amount of time, to just cut the line and leave that in there. And I've heard in the past, I want to say, and maybe it's hook companies where I've heard this from, but that the hooks will just rust out, and it's better for the fish to have that just rust out naturally than to try to, you know, mangle it out of them. And I don't know if they're trying to just sell more hooks or whatever. I'm no scientist. I don't know necessarily, but I'm curious about that. I mean, there is some selective harvest too. Let's talk about live well tournaments. You know, there is some, you know, post-release mortality that happens in those situations. You know, the bigger lakes, I think it's probably more of an issue where they're like miles and miles and miles from where they were caught.
Yeah.
And the stress level, but that's a part of it too. And it's just like, but I think what this author, did you say where this article came from, Joe?
Yeah, it's Outdoor Life.
So I think the author in this Outdoor Life article, I think he sort of is
Joe Carmelli is the author.
Joe Cermelli?
Yep.
Shut the fuck up. It sounded like a Joe Cermelli article when he talked about his grandfather.
I'm not familiar with Joe Cermelli.
You don't know Joe? So Joe worked for Field and Stream for a long time.
Okay.
Joe did Hook Shots, and Joe is the host of the Cut and Retie podcast.
Gotcha.
He was also, there was another podcast, I forget the name. Not Hook Shots. It'll come to me. It was from Meat Eater. Like, Joe's done some shit, and I guess Saint Nick actually is they talk. Joe and Saint Nick talk a lot, and I would love to get Joe Cermelli on this show, but dude is just busier than hell, and he's only in Jersey. I'd love to fish with the guy, but he does like everything, man. He's a fucking good guy. Can you tell I'm a bit of a fanboy when it comes to Joe Cermelli?
A little bit.
It's fucked up. So yeah. I think he's taking into account, especially knowing it's Joe Cermele, he's got to be taking into account that delayed mortality from tournament fishing and that kind of pressure. Because I think that like they do, it's like every spring there's millions of bass fry, the majority of which do not make it. Something eats them. You know what I mean? And it's just, dude, it's kill or be killed down there, you know? Mm-hmm. It's nuts. Yeah, I don't know. This is we could totally do, and this is probably will be a roundtable where we'll get some folks on and we'll talk about it. Maybe we can get Joe on for a roundtable live stream. We'll have the whole conversation. It'd be freaking great. But yeah.
I can't wait for the round tables because I'm like naturally argumentative, kind of.
Yeah, you like to play devil's advocate, and so do I. Yeah. You know, I'm like, oh, well, what about this situation? I just like to see where people are at. Yeah, I think that's awesome, dude. That's great. What a good, you know, and Oliver Nye is like he's a respected person in bass fishing in a major way. Like he's not a dummy who's like, look, this is a problem. He's gonna.
And like people like, especially in our area that, you know, hear that portion of the story of like, you know, when he pulls out the 4-pounder from his oven, don't forget a 4-pounder for him is a 1-pounder for us.
Yeah. That's the
thing.
You
know what I mean?
That's why I said for me, I wouldn't necessarily keep a 4-pounder.
Yeah.
I would if I fucking like, if it took a hook like that trout did.
Yep.
Where it like just literally cut its own gills open. I'm like, 100% I would do that. But, you know, it's like you got to find the use. And actually, where Joe's from in Jersey, I wouldn't be eating bass like that. You know what I'm saying? Stocked fish only. Yeah. Stocked fish only. And then there's a part of that. This will be my final thought. There is a part of that too where fish stocking, that's a problem too. You know what I mean? Like it plays a role. Like I don't know. Like sometimes the individual states will decide to stock a species for one reason or another, and they fuck around with a natural ecosystem that may not necessarily have to. Because keep in mind, you can only support so much life. You know. In a specific amount of water. So if you've got a pond where you're like, but with that said, we were just talking about giants and ponds. I took a giant this past April out of one pond that gets stocked routinely with trout species. And sometimes those are the fish that these big fish need to be eating. You know? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. This is good, Joe. This is really good.
It is.
Let's go ahead. We'll shift gears here. We'll get back. We'll take a quick break. We have Gear of the Week, and do we have a Just the Tip? We do have a Just the Tip for you guys regarding early winter fishing, different patterns and such and such. So we'll have all that coming up for you guys. You won't want to miss it. We'll be right back right after this. Jigs and Bigs wants to take a moment to say thank you to our partners for helping us continue to push the limits of our fishing adventures and bring you amazing long-form podcast content. We need to thank Dark Horse Tackle, Omnia Fishing, A-Bay Lure, The Bay House, and The Ship Motel. We can't forget about Three Bells Outfitters, Torres Sunglasses, and of course, Reaction Tackle. Be sure to check the description of this podcast for any associated affiliate links or promo codes they've generously provided our listening audience. Again, we cannot thank our partners enough for their support. Please consider supporting them and supporting the show in the same process. Thanks. Hey, you. Yeah, you. the one with the impeccable taste in fishing podcasts. Bobby Roast Beef here with a little call to action for all Jigs and Bigs listeners. We're opening up our hotline to you. Now you can call us to sound off about almost anything at 413-324-8519. Want to submit someone for our FTG segment? Call us at 413-324-8519. Care to maybe suggest a topic for Just the Tip or Bait of the Week? Call us at 413-324-8519. Maybe you just want to give us or anyone else a little shout out on the show, or you want to suggest a guest for the beef seat. You guessed it. Call us at 413-324-8519. The Jigs and Bigs hotline is there for you to leave a message with us 24/7. Just call 413-324-8519. Also, you can check that number in the notes of this podcast.
And perhaps play a little game called Just the Tip. Just for a second, just to see how it feels. Or, ouch, ouch, you're on my hair.
Okay.
All right, guys. Bobby Roast Beef here with a Just the Tip, and what we're going to talk about here today is early winter freshwater fishing. When you have open water and those colder temps where you're not iced up. So we're going to talk about some stuff you want to know about. So in early winter, freshwater fish have a tendency to move slower due to the dropping water temperatures, making it essential to adjust your tactics. So here's a tip that works across a good chunk of the country. Of course, you know, when you freeze up, these tips clearly don't work. First one is you got to slow down your presentation. As the water gets cooler, a fish's metabolism is going to slow, and they're becoming less and less likely to chase fast-moving baits. Use like jigs or soft plastics, Texas rig soft plastics, or obviously you can use live bait, and you want to retrieve them as slowly as you can. Focus on areas where there's water that's near structures, like either submerged logs or stumps or drop-offs or weed edges where they're going to congregate for warmth. Another tip is to look, like Joe said, for rocks, not just big boulders, but even if you've got, a rocky bottom, that's going to tend to hold a little bit more heat. Now, I do want to mention that there are situations where you can use a moving bait. They might not be chasing huge because there are exceptions. We've always talked about the jerk bait, which I wouldn't call a search bait necessarily. It's more subtle, but the real anomaly here, and even before ever fishing it, I'd throw this in here, would be something like the A-rig, or even like slow rolling a spinnerbait or something that can do the job. The key is the slower the presentation. So that's a huge one right there. Bonus tip is that this is a time of year when you're talking about that water's in that low 40s, high 30s range, where your midday fishing can actually be more productive simply because the sun can slightly warm the water, and those rocky areas especially, it's going to hold it a little bit more, encouraging more fish to be active in that warmer pocket. So it ain't no fun if there ain't no sun. You know what I'm saying? Joe, you got anything you want to add to that? Did I miss anything?
No, man. I think you pretty much got it. I was looking up Hobby's thing right here. He's got some
body
good
of
stuff.
water.
Trying to get him a better answer here, but
yeah, Javi Silva, one of our jig heads, had asked about who can I ask questions about cold open water smallmouth fishing, need some help. And I told him, I said, this might help you, this Just the Tip. And Joe had asked him about water temp, and he said it was probably like 45 degrees, maybe something like that. And he's telling us which reservoir to look at. In what do you got, Joe?
It's a smaller reservoir.
Yep.
I was in the process of reading, but I was trying to kind of see what the bottom's like and stuff.
I'm gonna look it up.
But Javi, honestly, the two biggest things I would tell you is blade baits and hair jigs.
Hair jigs are great too.
Yeah.
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 It sometimes is a good idea to lighten up the weight a little bit to get a slower fall rate, or if nothing else, take the fall rate into consideration. So something that's got a little bit more skirt material will slow down a jig as the way it falls through the water, even if it is a little bit heavier. So if you're making a choice between like 2 3/8 ounce jigs and you want a slower fall rate, look for whichever one has the bulkier skirt that'll catch more water and provide a little bit more resistance.
Yep.
Yeah, that is freaking that's awesome. And this is this goes in to say like what Joe was talking about earlier in the what do you call it? In the he always talking about bringing Jeremiah along like these rivers along the winter. When that water gets really cold, like you can 100% go and track fish down all winter long in these rivers as long as it's not iced up. You'll be good to go. Let's go ahead and talk gear because I have one that I think is going to be really, really good for some of you guys.
Okay, gearheads, it's time to talk tools. Jigs and Bigs gear of the week.
So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys. I'm going to put this on the screen right here. Let me just see what screen. I think we're screen 1. I think that's where we are. Yep. All right. I'm going to put this on the screen for our jig heads so that they can see it. The gear this week that I want to talk about is for the content creator. Or, whether you're creating content or not, if you're an angler and you're utilizing a camera in any kind of way, this is super, super helpful right here. So there's a company, they're called Neewer. That's Neewer. They make a bunch of camera equipment, mounts, tripods, and things. In fact, my ring light over here is from Neewer. This is called the Neewer Action Camera Neck Mount Quick Release Magnetic Holder with phone clip compatible with GoPro Hero and a bunch of different ones. Basically, all of your GoPro style mounts that all of those cameras use, this will work. So what this is, it's like a silicone band. I almost compared it to like an old bike lock, without the chain. And that's what I think it really looks like. It's got this plastic rectangular piece that would sit like mid-chest level. And that rectangular piece acts as a lock. On the back, there's 2 switches. There's a lock and an unlock switch. And that band only comes out of one side. So you can lock it back into position and take it off. And when it's on, it is on. And it's nice because it's moldable. So I've actually taken this and I've used it as like a tabletop mount. When I've needed to put my camera somewhere to get an interesting angle, I just fold it back over and boom, done. And this has proved to be really, really handy. So it comes with mounts for, your GoPro, your Insta360, your DJI cameras, all that stuff. But it also has a phone mount, which makes it really great for like, if you want to catch that first person view for like recording something like for TikTok or an Instagram reel or something like that. Or if you're like me and you realize that your phone is a really powerful camera and you just go horizontal with it, it'll help give you that angle right there. I've used this in some of my YouTube videos and it's cheap. It lists at like $30. I've never seen it actually that price. I think I spent like $19.99 on it maybe when I bought it. And well, actually I can tell you exactly how much I spent on it because I'm looking at this is my order right here. How much did I spend on it? Oh, it doesn't say. It doesn't say what the items were. Yes, it does. $22.99 is what I spent on it. It's on sale right now through for Black Friday at what was it?
1609.
1609. That's a bargain. That is a bargain. And it's worth it. It works great in a pinch for a lot of different things. It's super useful. So, and I bring this up because I know like not every angler wants to be or is even into fishing content online at all. But if you're one of those anglers that's like, I want to I found fish, I want to try to capture some video here of what's going on. This is a great way to get that first person sort of stuff. It also, too, I've used it for my phone on speakerphone when I've been talking, and I'm like, I want to be hands-free and not have to hold my phone.
Right.
Just leave it in there. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, and have a conversation with whomever, because that's when people seem to call Bobby Roast Beef is when he's on the water. I don't know why. I don't know why people are so interested in it, but they are. So yeah, I would highly recommend it. It's a Neewer action camera neck mount, quick release magnetic holder with iPhone clip compatible, or rather with phone clip compatible with GoPro Heroes, Max DJI Action 4, Insta360, iPhone, Samsung, all that kind of stuff. And you know what? I'll put the link in here too. There's no affiliate link or anything like that. Like, this doesn't do anything. But if you guys are interested in it, it's available. It's on Amazon. You can order that. It's awesome. Way better than the chesty mount, I think. Way better. Way more comfortable. And you don't have to worry about stretching this thing out. Like, I'm a big guy. Right. I put that chesty mount on, and that elastic like band on it is cheap. You know, and it's, even if you're not like the rotund individual that I am, if you have to adjust that anyway, you're going to be tightening it up, you know, eventually, because it's just going to stretch out. Solid. I love it. I like it. No FTG. Have to look into that. Oh, dude, you're going to love it. No FTG. I think Jeremiah's going to love it, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. I think he's going to love it. No FTG this week. Everybody was on like their ridiculous behavior. It was really good. So that's awesome. I think that's kind of how we expect it to go, though, once we get to these colder months. You get a lot fewer jabronis out there. You know, you really do. And I'm okay with that. But if there's somebody that's kind of getting your goat, call the hotline and leave it as an FTG. This could be for, you know, a litany of reasons. I mean, even if it's like slightly not fishing related, I don't care. Go for it. We'll give you an opportunity to vent. If we get ice and there's an ice fishing season, the FTGs will come back. They will. You're 100% right. And some folks are going to get ice. You know, I just don't know locally if we're going to have it. You know what I'm looking forward to, Joe? What's that? Probably in December, I think I'm going to try to put together my first Cape Cod send. Okay. I'm going to try and set that up. And it's going to be a long day. It's going to be leaving the house at 4 a.m. and then getting there and just, I want to have enough time so I can just take it easy. It's one thing, you know what? Let's talk about this in the third segment. I'm in the market for something, and I want Joe's opinion, I want our jig head's opinion, and I want our listeners' opinion too on what's the move. So let's go ahead. We'll take a real short break, and we'll be back with more Jigs and Bigs goodness right after this. Hey guys, Bobby Roast Beef here from Jigs and Bigs. You know, if there's one thing I can't stand spending money on, it's on something that's not versatile, something that I can't get a lot of use out of. I want to talk to you about Frost Buddy. What Frost Buddy is it's one of those can coolers. I've seen these before. In fact, I have some that are limited to only fitting one specific size of can, like a standard 12-ounce can. I stumbled onto Frost Buddy, and I was blown away with it. So versatile. Fits standard cans, tall cans, slim cans, and even 12-ounce bottles. And the magic is the insert fits all of these items in various stages within the insert. And when you take that out, you can fit a full 16-ounce tall boy can. In fact, it even doubles down on being versatile with the coffee lid. And on my recent trip to Chickamauga, I had a field day with this thing. I was throwing beer cans in it. I'd have coffee in the morning. On the drive, I was throwing in all different sizes of cans for different canned coffee products to keep me awake on the long drive back. The thing was amazing. So I recommend you check out Frost Buddy. If you're in the market for either a travel cup for your coffee or a can cooler at all, either one of those, check it out. For the money, you cannot go wrong. What I've done is this. In the show notes for this podcast you're listening to right now, if you look there, you'll find a link to Frost Buddy where you can get yours. And not only can you go and get your Frost Buddy there, but you can help out the show as well. Go and visit that link in the show notes to this podcast. Check out a Frost Buddy. Tons of colors, tons of patterns, all kinds of great stuff. And it's a great spot to put your Jigs and Bigs sticker too. Take it from me, Bobby Roast Beef. You're going to get the most versatility out of this one product, probably out of anything you're ever going to buy, especially for anything that you're drinking. Frost Buddy. It works for me. I'm a happy guy. No guest this week in the beef seat, but again, Thanksgiving week, so totally understand everybody having, being busy and all the running around and all that stuff that's associated with it. We have had a good show, I think, but I got one more thing I want to kind of cover here, Joe, and I'm interested on your take. So again, this being my first year with a boat. Okay. I have been playing the game on my boat where I am, and same thing like when I bank fish, I go out with layers on. I'll have, a base layer and then my regular clothes or whatever it is that I'm wearing. And then I'll have a mid layer and then an outer layer is a jacket. So like I've got something to block that wind. If it's sunny and it's warm, because a lot of the stuff that I wear is black intentionally, I'll take that jacket off and then I can strip a layer down or ditch my hat or something to kind of like regulate my temperature. But like in the rain, my gear, that sucks. It really does. It's horrible. I'm considering one of two things. I'm considering getting just a rain shell, like just a simple rain shell.
Sure.
That would probably be the most cost effective, right? As far as getting a set of bibs, I'm thinking something that can go over like that base layer and like my pants or whatever. And then, then I've got them. I could ditch the jacket if I need to, if it's warm. Same thing as like when I'm ice fishing or something like that. And if I don't have this gear, otherwise I would just move one to the other. And that's what I'm looking for is one piece of equipment to kind of be able to do it all with. So have those bibs with that rain gear. And like I said, that would be light. I could do the layers. It would be fine. The other thing that I'm thinking about is doing a float suit. You familiar with those, right? It's similar,
I have one.
Similar situation. If you fall into the water, it is your PFD. It will keep you afloat. And I'm wondering if I should just say fuck it and go that route, or if I should continue to do what I'm doing with layers and just get like a rain focused outer layer, like look into a set of Grundens or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So I have a float suit, but I use it for like ice fishing.
That's my other thought too, is same idea.
So, it's awesome. They're pricey.
Yeah, I know.
Mine is a striker. They're great. The problem with them is it's for super cold weather.
Yeah, and that's what and
your mobility
is wicked limited.
Kind of blows.
Okay.
I have never used it to like cast a rod or anything like that. But just thinking about it,
it would probably suck.
It would suck.
Okay.
It would suck.
That's good to know.
I use right now for like my rain gear. I use Sims. It's not insulated or anything like that, but it's awesome at like obviously for the rain and for the wind.
Yeah.
But I bought it big enough so I can put it over all my base layers and stuff.
Yep.
And
yeah,
dude, I was using that in when it was 28 degrees in St. Lawrence River, and I was fine.
See, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I don't know if I need something that's insulating at all. I'll tell you right now. So, like, everybody knows I'm kind of a slut for AFTCO. And specifically, the reason why a lot of people ask, they're like, what is it about AFTCO that you're like so into? Like, what is it? And you know what it is, man? They make a line of their stuff that's called Big Guy, and it's sized the best. Like the hoodie, and there's non-spons here at all. Like, we get nothing from AFTCO at all. They get more of my money than anything else.
Right.
But like the sleeves on these hoodies are exactly the right length for my oddly shaped body, but the width will fit me comfortably, so I go for like a lot of that stuff. They have in their Big Guy lineup, they have, let me actually look this up and see what this is. I think it's called the Hydronaut suit or something. Come on, type properly. Yeah, it is. It's the Hydronaut. And I mean, it's not cheap, but it's like a parka. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's like a parka. And there's bibs for it. I mean, I'm just concerned with something like that. Like, is that going to be too heavy of a layer? Or should I go with something that's just like straight waterproof, like vinyl?
Right.
Like
right.
Go with the old Grundens or something. Actually,
get yourself something that's going to have a little bit of warmth as well.
A little
you know
bit
what
of
I mean?
insulation, yeah, you think so?
Yeah. Not even insulation, but
Yep.
just like just not a straight like vinyl suit. Go with like something from, you know, like you said, like AFCO, Sims. Something one thing you don't want to fuck with is staying dry. Make sure you get yourself something quality that you know is gonna hold up. You know, you don't want to just get some shitty ass Frog Togs fucking vinyl suit that's just gonna rip or tear or whatever.
Oh yeah, no, you're not wrong. And I'll tell you, there was recently I was out on the boat and we were launching, and I got a little bit of water up over the edge of my muck boots. And I was like, I had like tiny, like this little trickle. And I was like, the bottom of my sock was. So when I parked the truck, I grabbed my Crocs. I took the muck boots off on the boat. And then I put my Crocs on so that my feet, I was freezing until that was dry. And these were wool socks, you know?
Yeah.
That's why I just wanted it to dry. And I'm like, all right, so once it dries, we'll be good to go. Todd has a couple of suggestions here. He says, I have a float suit for ice fishing. It's thick. He says, I like to use the bibs with a thinner coat. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. So listeners, if you're listening to this, go ahead and DM Jigs and Bigs on Instagram or Facebook, or shoot an email to jigsandbigs413@gmail.com. Suggest something to me, especially if you have experience being a bigger person and can speak to the sizing, because like I'd be all right with getting like the AFCO rig. I really would. It's AFCO. It's not cheap. I mean, I think each item for the Hydronaut is like $269, $289, something like that. And I'm like, am I going to get the use out of something? Because like I could go and ice fish with that, with the layers underneath. You know, 100%. I don't know, just something to keep in mind. But yeah, and I like the idea of the options. Okay, so float suit is out. That's not the move for fishing on the boat.
No, I wouldn't recommend it.
It's like the younger brother on A Christmas Story when he's fucking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's no good. That's no good. I could see that being a problem. For ice fishing for sure, like it makes a whole lot of sense. But and if you ice fish like me, you're just sitting and drinking anyway. So there's not, you know what I mean? That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. I would say this is a pretty goddamn fun little show this week.
Oh yeah.
And buckle up, guys. We're getting into the holiday season. There's going to be products that will be, getting announced in sales and things. So this is one of those times of the year where you're going to probably drop some coin. As always, if you're buying from an online source like Dark Horse Tackle or Omnia or Reaction Tackle, Abe Lure Lab, Hookset Hoodlums, check the links in our description of all the podcasts. We have links for everybody there. You can help support the podcast. And you can also save a little bit with some of the promo codes that are listed in there as well. So we appreciate you. That is awesome. You guys are the best. Joe, you got anything you want to wrap up with?
No, man, that's it. Glad you had a great turkey day. Hope everyone out there had a great turkey day.
Absolutely. And
we'll see y'all next week.
I love it, guys. You guys have a good one. We'll talk, and don't forget exactly that. Like we always say,
tits and ass, smoke some grass.
Destruction.